And we are back with Rick. Rick, what's up, dude?
Hey, not much. How are you doing?
Good. We took a week off last week, and we're back. Are you feeling refreshed?
I am refreshed and ready to go, even though it's like some of the stories are still the same thing we were talking about 2 weeks ago with no progress, but that's kind of just Trump world nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll cover a few of the main ones, too, from like the week before, just so we don't miss anything, because I'm sure people are chomping at the bit for Rick's spicy takes on the reflecting pool.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
You walking around, just looking at your mirror image, just going, I don't see it. Before we start the show, though, I wanted to get your opinion on a random culture thing, social thing. In that, do you watch stuff with commercials still? Like, I know not everyone with streaming sees a lot of TV commercials, but I get it sometimes because I don't pay for the premium version of a few of them.
Yeah, mainly Red Sox for sure. And it's funny because like I was reminded of it when the Red Sox season started this year, because like outside of the Red Sox, like no commercials. So it's like April to September, I'm seeing way more commercials than I am during the rest of the year. You know, because even if you watch football, that's once a week.
Totally
different.
And if you watch Red Zone or something like that, it's like, DraftKings ads over and over and over again. Like, it's not really what normal people are watching on TV. And I was just thinking about it because I've been watching more, I think it was HBO or one of them. And the amount of Ozempic and Ozempic-like drug ads is just unbelievable, man.
It's unbelievable. But when the Ozempic first dropped that commercial a year or two ago, the Ozempic. That was in my head all day.
Oh, yeah, it's not. I did O'Reilly Auto Parts there by mistake. There's a lot of O's.
Well, yeah, same tune.
There's Ozempic, I think.
I don't understand why prescription commercials are legal in the United States. That's obviously a big difference between us and parts of the rest of the world.
I think everywhere else, right?
Yeah, and they have to end it with ask your doctor about this. And it's always like, I want my doctor to suggest the best treatments that they believe. You know what I mean? Not the commercial I saw while watching the Sox game.
Last night I was watching The Price is Right, and I got an eczema ad. What do you think, Doc?
Right.
Just like, no, I feel like Ozempic and weight loss and eczema are the two like massive medications that are getting pushed hard right now. And I feel like, though, I was thinking about this the other day, like, I remember there is like eras of the type of medicine that are pushed. Like, there was a huge Cialis phase. Do you remember that? Everywhere. And I was laughing to myself. This is where I'm ultimately getting at, is like the idea of like the cultural phenomena on when Viagra came out, and just like 60-year-old men being like, we're back, baby. Like, just thinking about like the movement of people at work being like, have you tried this Viagra stuff? Like, I'm just thinking about that, and like the way Ozempic is doing the same thing, where you're just starting to see people randomly slim out, and you're like, oh, they're on it. Like, I wonder if there was that level of phenomena where these other medications came out.
So true. I remember when we were kids, the baseball player Rafael Palmeiro was in the Viagra or Cialis ad. And that was a big deal because he like also popped for steroids, and it was like, wait a second. But yeah, it's the Ozempic ads with the celebrities are confusing too, like with Serena Williams and stuff, because it's like obviously athletes are in a very different situation regarding their weight.
And none of them are for diabetes, which is the actual. Right. I've never actually seen them advertised to diabetics. They're always the weight loss versions. Like, that is the ad.
Yeah.
Anyways, I was just laughing because like there will be a new one too eventually, where like there's a new era of like the common medicine and like all the stuff. And we'll be talking about the flu vaccine in a little bit, but it cracks me up. I think you and I were talking about this off the air, of how so many people are cool with Ozempic, but not cool with the vaccine. And it's like the same companies and it's the same mechanism. And I'm like, dude, Pfizer's cool when it can make you lose a few pounds.
Right. Zero research into it. Brand new drug being injected at will, and there's just no problem about it. But yeah, the thing that always gets me is it's made by the same companies. It's the same pharma companies. It's Lilly and Moderna and all those.
What are we talking about here? Anyways, that was just my random tangent of just like, I kept thinking about like how exciting for old men the idea of like, it's back.
Yeah.
They're all like, they're watching TV and they're just like, honey.
Yeah. Honey, call the doctor.
Holy shit. You actually would call the doctor in that case.
Right.
Hey, I need that shit. Imagine, because until that point, you were done for decades, and now they're back. Anyway, I just keep thinking about how exciting that must have been for old men. Anyways, that's all I had to say. This is what I think about when I'm walking around the apartment. But so we should lead with Iran, even though, to your point off the top, this is maybe the biggest flop of the last few weeks. That, you know, Trump was in team, we're at the G7, and they had their 14-point plan. I did a breakdown on it for the Wednesday show, and it's still interesting. I still think if you're curious about it, like, go listen to that, because it is showing how bad of a deal that is. But they've already broke it. They've already broke the ceasefire, the MoU. I mean, it wasn't really even a peace deal. It was a MoU, which anyone who knows about those, they're not really strong. But anyways, it's just, I actually have a different question than whether, and we can talk more about the deal later, but I actually have a more conspiratorial question for you off the top. Are they doing market swaying on purpose with this deal? like, because the markets react so strongly to a peace deal is about to get signed. Oh, no, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. And we've just seen so many different examples of Trump manipulating markets with tariffs and other policy, crypto policy, to make money for him and his boys. And it's getting to the point where this Iran MoU peace thing is so off and on that I'm wondering, is this just another version of that, do you think? / is that crazy?
It's very possible. I mean, like, even if it could still be like the worst aspects of insider trading, even if Trump isn't doing it for that purpose. But if that's just like a side quest for him, for example, like he knows the MoU is going to be signed tomorrow. He calls people and advises them to place certain stock market purchases based on that. You know what I mean? Like that wouldn't necessarily be like the full-blown conspiracy of like Trump is writing the MoU to get his buddies rich, but it's like a secondary effect of he is giving insider trading knowledge, basically. I think that's very possible. Like him and his friends are taking advantage of the situation, whether or not like it's the reason they're doing it in that way.
Well, and it's so similar to the tariffs where he'll tease the signing, like he'll tweet out like a deal is imminent, and then at the last second it pulls out, or like a day later it breaks. Remember with the tariffs, it was always like this, and you watched the and then eventually they started doing the taco effect, so they didn't factor it in. But with the peace deal, with the price of oil and all the economic activity that's constrained to the Gulf area, right, that it has a huge effect on the economy, obviously. So, like, there obviously is impacts when they do these deals or forecast a deal, and he just tweets so much about it, and it has such a sway, his tweets specifically, that it's seemingly like, are they even negotiating in good faith? Is anyone, either the Iran side or the U.S. side, negotiating in good faith? Because what the hell is going on here? They can't get any deal.
Right. And every new release of drafted MoU or ceasefires, from the American standpoint, are weaker than the ones before. You know, like something you covered in the solo episode, like breaking down the points, was that like, this is a much worse deal than the Iran nuclear deal.
Oh, it's not even close.
That Obama signed, right? Yeah. In terms of the level of economic stimulus and sanction relief that we would be providing under this deal is like absolutely massive, which seems like a very unusual thing to do with a country that you just started a war against. It's like suddenly you want to rebuild their economy. It's super weird. I also thought another interesting thing that came out this week is Marco Rubio is like the most aggressive one in the administration when talking about Iran. Like he's always calling Iran's leaders like religious extremists. He says they're radicalized by like Islamist ideas. Like he very much is putting the, you know, Iran is a crazy theological dictatorship type of thing out there. But then you see these other leaks that say, oh, JD Vance is actually super opposed to the Iran war. And it does seem like these two men that should be leading the negotiations are just focused on how this is going to look in 2028 when they run for president.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
And like that's
fake.
driving them more than getting a ceasefire that works.
100%. And I mean, one of the other biggest indicator of that is the fact that they haven't changed the Kushner-Witkoff negotiating team. Like, how many more times are we going to send those two out there to absolutely bomb?
Right.
And yeah, it's interesting because the deal that they signed, right, the actual MoU that was signed last week, is in every way, shape, or form a concession of defeat from the U.S., right? Paying $400 billion of reparations, removing sanctions, unfreezing assets. You don't concede significantly more than you had before the war if you're winning the war. You don't go, because not only, to your point, is it worse than the Obama deal, it's worse than it was post the Obama deal getting scraped. Because before the deal was scraped, they were still negotiating a deal, like to remove the sanctions, blah, blah, blah. But the strait was open. There was no cost of war. There were no lives lost, all that stuff. So in every shape or form, they lost the war, which is something me and you were saying months ago, frankly. Like they were going to lose this. This is a bad. But it's really concerning, frankly, how they really lost. It's better than Russia, I guess, in the sense that Russia was too stubborn to admit defeat and has just continually losing their war with Ukraine. But I guess that one's more justified that they lost because it was kind of NATO v. Russia. This is just US v. Iran. And the US lost.
Right, exactly. But yeah, Trump just like, he's looking for an off-ramp, right? Like he's looking for, because of the effects on the economy and his approval ratings, like he's desperate to get out. Like I think everyone that's watching Trump closely can see that now, that the BS he was peddling for the first month of like, I'm not even considering our economy, this is all about a nuclear weapon, like he's not even pretending to be like that anymore.
Remotely. Yeah.
Now he's like, no, I really want lower interest rates and to just end this thing.
We're ready to call it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like this MoU that apparently isn't sticking, especially with strikes over the weekend, like it doesn't seem like it's an off-ramp that's going to work.
No, I mean, their drone strike, it's still going. I mean, Iran struck a Bahrain base, a tanker. The U.S. is now doing a new round of bombing, I think literally as we speak, or last night. I mean, no, it's not. Nothing happened. And the other thing to it is that there's this whole Lebanon-Israel kind of side quest of the fact that Iran, one of the deal points is that no more bombing Lebanon, basically. And Israel won't agree to that, effectively, right? It seems like they keep saying, oh, maybe, but then every time they say yes, the next day, they start bombing Beirut again. And I think this is also weird. And it also is really highlighting the odd dynamic of Israel versus the U.S. or Israel and the U.S. I don't know, or Trump v. Netanyahu. And it's funny because you've now starting to see more Republicans kind of talk tough about Israel, I feel like. And I just want to let people know how BS that is. Look, they do not do anything tough. Frankly, nobody does anything tough with Israel. Either party. Right. Frankly. And it's just getting harder and harder to swallow over time, right?
Yeah, and I think two things can be true. On one hand, no president has been that tough with Israel. They've all called Israel our strongest ally for the most part since Israel's inception, right? That can be true while also nobody has been a bigger lapdog than Israel than Trump. Like, Trump has taken it to an entirely new level where Netanyahu has been begging the U.S. to invade Iran for, like, at least 20 years, right? And all the presidents, Obama, Trump 1, Biden, all said no. Of course, they were still massive Israel supporters, and they deserve being criticized for just giving a blank check to Israel, for the past 20 years. But, like, I think maybe some people in MAGA world aren't seeing a difference between like Obama, Biden's support for Israel and Trump. And like, there's a pretty big difference.
And the Dem side, too. I think Dems are
right.
saying it's one and the same. Kamala would have been the same.
Exactly.
Blah, 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 blah. So, sorry, I cut you off. Keep going.
Oh, no. But like, this is a giant escalation. While
yes.
to basically fight a war for Israel against a major Middle Eastern military because Israel's a little too busy focusing on destroying what's left of Gaza and now Lebanon. Like, it is a significant... There's one thing to give a blank check to Israel, and it's another thing to put the U.S. military on the ground to accomplish exactly what Israel wants.
100%. And this war wouldn't have happened, I'm pretty confident, if Kamala was president. We may have still been giving them ammunitions. We may have still have been giving them funding, which is all bad. I'm not trying to say that's good. But the idea that the U.S. would literally be jointly in a war, which, frankly, they aren't able to like negotiate with amongst each other. Not only can Trump not make a deal with Iran, he can't make a deal with Israel.
Right.
Can we just very quickly just talk about how bad of a deal maker Trump is? He is so bad.
He's so bad.
He's so bad. I also want to say very quickly that, like, you know, you were talking about Marco Rubio kind of, you know, leaning on this Iranian is just religious, you know, insanity, blah, 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 blah. And I want to, like, make sure people realize that is true for, like, you know, like the Iranian government, the Ayatollah, the president. I mean, the Rolodex of quotes you could pull from them over the last decade is just brutal. We don't even have to look that long ago when they were massacring protesters and stuff like this. Like, the idea that this government is anything but a, you know, religious, authoritarian, gobbledygook government is crazy. But that being said, I do want it also to be, you know, realized how far Israel has fallen in terms of how they communicate and publicly, like, are perceived in terms of comparing themselves amongst these very conservative Islamic countries. And I think nothing shows that better than Ben Gvir last week, I think, saying this quote of, "For every tear of an Israeli mother, 1,000 Lebanese mothers must weep. All of Lebanon must burn." And he's in the Israeli government. He's one of the, I think, the defense secretary or the minister of defense or something like that. Like, that is a quote that if it came out of the Iranian leadership mouth would be used as an excuse for Israeli action and, like, Israeli
100%.
defense. And I just think, like, that wasn't true 10 years ago, that they were, like, so comfortable saying such, you know, awful things. Like, all of Lebanon must burn. Like, awful, you know?
Totally.
Anyway, I just thought that's worth mentioning.
No, and Ben Gvir is so extreme that he was kicked out of Netanyahu's administration in early 2025 for like 2 months. And then basically when the temporary ceasefire with Palestine fell through, Netanyahu was like, okay, you can come back. He's very much like the Stephen Miller, I feel like, of Netanyahu, where it's like ultimately Netanyahu deserves the blame because he's absolutely in charge. But, like, this guy is sort of, like, the extremist, ideological, like, philosophical guy really pushing this just desire to destroy all of our enemies at any cost, basically.
Yeah, the neighboring enemies in their eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that quote was absolutely insane, though. I mean, that's up there with, like you said, any quote from any other extremist government. And, like, Israel's, you know, what Israel always used to say before the past few years was like, we're the one democracy in the Middle East. Now that statement just seems completely laughable, right? Because they're so open about, one, wanting to destroy anybody in the Palestinian territories, but also openly wanting to kick Arab citizens out of Israel, which is really kind of like the final of this plan, because their defense has always been, we're actually a democracy with a bunch of Arabs and Muslims living in Israel. And like, I feel like this recent quote is just like fully giving up on that. They're recognizing no one's buying it anymore, and they're just like, you know, going full scorched earth.
Yeah, going full Kim Jong-un. Like, this is, and I think the reason why it's so important, I think, to talk about is because, people on the left, like leftists, will say, well, they've always been bad, like how they've handled Palestine over the last 50 years has been unjust and blah, blah, blah. And that's like, no, I'm not saying that's wrong or right, but that's a lot more nuanced and I think a lot more, politics. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how are you handling this? And there's a lot of international affairs questions and blah, blah, blah. And so it was always at least arguable of what should we, who's right, who's wrong, what's going on. You could say it wasn't arguable. You could say it was. It was very, very tricky geopolitics, clearly, or it would have been resolved, right? But as they continually position themselves as a state akin to Iran or akin to North Korea, it's just getting harder. You know what I mean? Really even remotely shed it, not shed a tear, but like feel bad or like sympathize or justify funding, I guess you could say, because like you wouldn't fund North Korea. You wouldn't fund Iran. Right. I guess they would fund Iran. They're giving Iran $400 billion. Right. I think it's so different because like a lot of people like you and I who like went to college for politics and study politics, what we learned when we were studying international relations is actually substantially different now than it was then. In terms of like the context of everything.
100%. I mean, they've lost any international support other than the United States for the most part.
Yeah, and that didn't fall out of the sky. I guess
right.
I guess I'm trying to say. Like, I think a lot of, we get comments sometimes about this, that this is like an anti-Semitic comment and blah, blah, blah. And it's really, they're primed to attack Israel because of like unearthed anti-Semitism and stuff like that. And if another country was doing this, they'd be a lot more compassionate. And that, you can't ever prove the motives of a single person, why they say what they say. I can confidently say we're not saying that for that reason. I just think it's just like, I don't know. I don't want to keep talking about it because it's just like we have a lot more to talk about. But you read a quote like that and you're just like, Jesus Christ, guys. Like, what are you trying to do here? Like,
right.
Like
you should be trying to convince your allies that we're only responding proportionally.
Exactly.
Right? And then you put out a quote that is like, I am promising to respond disproportionately, 1,000x on what is happening to us.
And it's just, you go, nah.
Yeah.
You're really losing the case. Anyways, speaking of U.S. intervention, so obviously in the beginning of the year, the U.S. kidnapped the Venezuelan president, and I've on air, publicly pondered what the hell is going on in Venezuela. Like, we don't know. We've been very out of the loop. And this week, on Wednesday, 2 monster earthquakes hit Venezuela, a 7.2 and a 7.5. Really, really big deal. I think it's one of the biggest earthquake series in Venezuelan history. Awful. Death tolls are already estimated to exceed over 10,000, 4,000-ish confirmed dead. It's awful. People are saying this is going to cost Venezuela upwards to $100 billion. And so the Trump administration has pledged $150 million of aid response. And, that's great. I'm happy they're doing that. I think it would be anything to do it. But it's also interesting to see this not only post the abolishment of USAID, which would have been the arm that would have handled this. This is the biggest chunk of foreign aid since the dismantling of USAID. But it also just shows you the complicated relationship the U.S. now has in Venezuela of taking care of a country where you just dismantled its government.
Right. It's very unusual, and it's maybe they will do a lot of good, and maybe that will have, downstream effects of repairing our relationship with them as far as, the U.S. government relates to the citizens of Venezuela. But this Trump comment on Friday definitely will not help. Trump said, quote, outside of what happened last night, it was a big earthquake, knocked down buildings. But outside of the earthquake, it's a happy country again. People are dancing in the streets.
Yeah. Great. Absolutely great.
That's one of the most tone-deaf things he's ever said. And he's never had the right tone.
No. Well, remember when he was in Puerto Rico throwing toilet paper at them when they had the hurricane?
Right.
Oh,
right.
He's an idiot.
Yeah, it reminds me of that like classic old joke, like, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? Like, it really is pretty similar to that. It's so other than this massive environmental catastrophe, the worst in generations where thousands of people are dying, It's just great. They're doing so great.
They couldn't be happier.
Right. It's unbelievable.
And it just shows you, though, how unorganized this group is. So they've had to now rehire back fired USAID staff, and they're creating a subset organization within the State Department called the Bureau of Disaster and Humanitarian Response. Cough, cough, USAID. And it's just ridiculous because Myanmar in 2025 had a giant earthquake. That was a disaster. The U.S. gave them $9 million, but gave no search and rescue response. So it is showing you that the U.S. now feels more onus, as they should, to help Venezuela out because you just toppled their government, I guess. But also, like, is this going to be like this forever, where the U.S. now kind of treats it like a Puerto Rico, where it's not a state, but it's just like an area that they feel heavily invested in? And, like, I kind of feel like they should. And is this like Iraq too, then, like, in that way? Who's governing Venezuela? And how do you square this American isolationist mumbo jumbo with now we have to, like, kind of soft run Venezuela?
Right. We have to rebuild these countries where we contributed to the fall.
Yeah, we took the president out. Anyways, it's just really, really weird. A bunch of other drama within this stuff, rights and stuff like that. But very interesting in terms of just scandals was JD Vance he spoke at the Richard Nixon Library this week, and he's promoting his new book called Communion. By the way, a lot of time on his hands to write a new book during a ongoing war to go on a book tour. JD Vance, Mr. Read the Room Vance, he's been on a podcast tour too, we've seen. Hasn't asked us to be on the show. Insulting.
Insulting. He is so clearly running for president already. He could not be making it any more clearer than he has the past month. I mean, the guy went on The View.
Yeah, I know.
You think JD Vance is going on The View if he's not running for president?
It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. And so he's doing his book tour. He went to the Nixon Library. He was saying that, and this is the quote, he said, "If Watergate happened tomorrow, it would be like a 12-hour news story. Like, the idea that it would have taken down a president is crazy." And I agree with him, actually, completely. But I think, yeah, no shit, dude, that's your fault. It was
right.
Good that it took down Nixon and he had to resign in disgrace. He's so bad. It just shows you how far away the morals of this country have drifted since not that long ago.
Right. Yeah, that was exactly my reaction. Was like, I think we've even said that on the podcast before, that if Watergate happened today, it wouldn't take him down, because Trump's open corruption is so much worse than Nixon's corruption.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. JD Vance knows that, right?
I don't know. I don't know how he doesn't see that. And, like, he prefaced it like he was joking. Like, oh, I was joking around and saying that. But, like, obviously he knows that's true. Saying, like, we do Watergate, like, twice a day and no one gives a fuck. It's right. Kind of a crazy sentence to say out loud.
Right. And especially since, like, so much of what Watergate ended up being was about covering up all these other crimes that Nixon was aware of, right?
Yeah, of course.
So, like, it's not like, oh, if there was this simple, like, breaking into, the Watergate complex by, like, a Republican act, like, the Watergate break-in itself was not the whole scandal, obviously. The scandal was the cover-up and exposing all these other crimes that was going on within the Nixon's administration, partly because of how paranoid Nixon was. That despite being incredibly popular and winning elections super easily, he was, like, incredibly paranoid about his political opponents, which is so similar to Trump.
Except Nixon is just infinitely more intelligent.
Of course.
Than Trump. Like, couldn't be more. Like, he's right in that, because part of the framing of his comment was around saying that Nixon's presidency is kind of getting a little bit of a renaissance of popularity. And again, I don't think he realizes that that's only true because of how awful the current presidents have been.
Of course. And that's true about every modern president other than Trump. Every single one is getting a renaissance.
Yeah,
both,
100%.
Both Bushes, Obama, Bill Clinton.
It's only a matter of time.
Right.
Bidon will have a renaissance, too.
For sure.
100%. Because it will be so sandwiched within such insanity. He will, yeah, like, I just, it does speak to this point, though, that, like, where is the accountability? You know, and I know we rag on the Democratic Party a lot because we say, like, they're not holding anyone accountable. And you heard Mike Johnson this week saying something like, I don't know if you heard the quote where he's like, y'all, like, if the Dems win the midterms, they're going to try to arrest all of us. And, like, trying to frame it like they're crazy. But, like, no, like, framing it, it should be framed as because you guys keep breaking the law, once you lose the majority in every branch of government, you'll all go to jail. And, like, it just makes me wonder, though, like, here's a question for you. Can politicians now be convicted of breaking a law that they actually broke without it being framed as a hit job?
No. I mean, Trump has really broken that system in the way, I think.
Yeah.
But so much of it is what Trump says. So it's like Trump has broken that system for Trump and for his cronies and for Jan Sixers, right? And for his loyalist supporters. But, like, you take away Trump, hypothetically, whatever, he's out of office, he's dead in a few years, whatever. Like, you take Trump completely out of the political equation, and it's just tough to see what aspects of MAGA lives on, right? Like,
Totally.
does that specific aspect where anytime you're accused of any crime, you just say it's a hit job? Like, will that work for President JD Vance or Marco Rubio, or does it work for Trump just because Trump has this unique cult of personality and charisma within his own base?
Yeah, it's a great question. I hope so. It's that second one. You know,
Right.
It's just tricky because, like, you would think that it shouldn't be that in any sense, though. Like, that people can just break the law. And it's especially weird from the Republican Party, how they're so against the law, given that the law and order rhetoric is such a big part of it, especially with immigration and stuff like that. But do you think so? If the Democrats were to win the midterms and say you are, you know, the advisor of Chuck Schumer, they go, all right, we'll call Rick up. Would you encourage them to go after them and, like, prosecute? Or would you say it's going to cause too much drama and they're going to be labeled as whatever, blah, 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 and we should wait until 28 to do the impeachment filings and blah, 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 blah?
Part of it depends how the Senate. I think a lot of it depends on how many votes the Dems win in the Senate, right? Because even if they take the Senate, it's probably going to be 51 or 52.
Yeah.
So
totally, definitely. It will be
it's
like
not like they'll be able to really do whatever they want. I don't know if people seem to criticize the Harris and Biden campaigns in 2024 for focusing too much on Trump. Like, swing voters did not seem to like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in general, I think people need to be held accountable for crimes, right? And
Yes.
It's such a slippery slope that arguably started with Gerald Ford pardoning Richard Nixon for that exact reason, right? The country has to move on.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happens when a way more corrupt president comes in, does way worse crimes? Do we then still go, well, the country has to move on? Like, and it just keeps escalating?
Obama did that with Bush to a lot of extent.
Right. Oh,
that was
sure.
a huge part of his messaging. We can't keep relitigating how bad Bush was. We have to move on. And yet, in hindsight, Obama is now always labeled by conservatives as the most divisive president and, you know, expedited polarization and blah, 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 blah. Like, he gets that all the time. He eats that sin like crazy, even though it's ridiculous that he, like, created partisan politics. Like, it's ridiculous.
I just, honestly, like, I don't agree with this on a moral level, but it doesn't seem like focusing campaigns on going after Trump is successful for Democrats. It seems like, look at Mamdani. Like, it seems like having a campaign that is so focused on economic issues is the way forward. And that is kind of sad
No, it's interesting.
That the Democrats are potentially just not going to hold anybody accountable in the long term. But if they get, let's say they have a huge midterm win, the most of the candidates running are following closer to the Mamdani playbook than like the Adam Schiff or something playbook of like, I am so focused on holding people accountable for their crimes.
Yep.
Yeah, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of see both sides like you were saying. Like I do agree that if they immediately file for impeachment and continually like do like these trials and stuff, that seems to backfire like crazy. I also think though that it's a fair argument to say their weakness is part of the reason why they've been emboldened so much, the conservatives, to be so against the law, breaking the law. And if these guys really thought they could get arrested and really be punished for their illegal activity, maybe they would not do it. And so do we need like obviously not as extreme, but like our version of like a Nuremberg trial? They all just pay the piper and 30% of the country will say it's a kangaroo court or whatever, and they won't believe it. But whatever. It doesn't matter if cultist X doesn't believe in laws and is in their own conspiracy theory. I don't know. I mean, it's something that I wonder. I don't think it will matter what the right thing is. I think some of them will do it, like some random one random rep will file the articles of impeachment the day they win.
Right,
and
like
it will be a thing.
I really like Jamie Raskin in the House from Maryland, who's a constitutional law professor, because he's legit a constitutional law expert, and he's been at the center of all the Trump impeachment stuff from last time and this time. And like that makes sense for him, right? Like he's litigated these exact issues in court before.
Yeah, that's his whole thing.
He should be doing it. But I do think the lesson of 2024 ultimately was like the Democrats need to do literally whatever it takes to convince the lower class and middle class that they will fight for them more than Republicans. And that's really like has to be the number one goal of Democrats. Like there cannot be too many distractions from that, because ultimately everyone votes on vibes nowadays, and people are going to vote on the vibes of who they think might help them personally more. And so like that needs to be the focus. It obviously worked for Mamdani. But like we'll see in the next presidential race.
Yeah, it's something I want to keep talking about like in later on in future episodes and stuff as we keep getting closer to the midterms, because the challenging bit is obviously Mamdani doesn't have to worry about like, do you actually put forward to abolish ICE legislation? And even if you significantly defund ICE, will then that give ammo for Fox and the Republican machine to be like, see, they don't give a shit about the border. They don't give a shit about illegal immigration, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And fire up people from Iowa to like fume about that. Like, what do you, like, it is really, it's almost like that one specifically, you just have to wait. Even though I hate what ICE is doing, I hate what they're doing. It's so awful, you know? It's like a personal police force, it feels like. So, I don't know. Very complicated. And I mean, to the lawlessness bit, so in this New York Times book, Regime Change that came out, there's all these things getting shown of like the conversations within the White House. And one of them was, remember when obviously Renee Good got murdered by ICE, like as we were talking about, what the internal dialogues of what we should do, aka the White House should do, not us, and what they should say. And apparently Stephen Miller was pushing for suspending habeas corpus for immigrants, and JD Vance and Miller were really encouraging to invoke the Insurrection Act. And I think it just shows you a window into how they operate and how really comfortable they are with authoritarian kind of lack of respect for democracy internally. And they really don't care, just pulling these levers. And JD Vance has done a better job than Stephen Miller to try to pretend he's more of a traditional Republican. But let's not forget he's a Heritage Foundation goon, just like Miller. Right? Like they're basically the same. I don't see them very differently.
Totally. And it's so sad how extreme they've gotten, where I don't think we needed the National Guard to be called in for these protests. Like, I think that was an escalation, but at least you can argue that's partially what the National Guard is for, and that's how it's been used historically. But that's already an escalation. Like, them talking about the Insurrection Act, like, they're basically arguing to use the rest of the U.S. military against protesters.
Yep.
Which is, like, obviously a giant escalation beyond the National Guard, especially when there's no evidence the National Guard couldn't handle things.
And the only violence was ICE v. citizen, not citizen v. ICE. Yeah.
Right. And yeah, I read the report was JD Vance was arguing for it because they need to send a message to protesters.
Yeah, that's insane. Talk about Iranian protests. It's the same concepts. I don't know. Yeah.
That's not a responsibility of the president or the vice president, is to be sending messages to protesters, right? That's just violating their First Amendment.
Yeah. Like, these are the same people who pardoned January 6ers. Are saying we need to send a message to protesters for protesting ICE murdering an American citizen. It's unbelievable. They're such a joke. I just had to say that because I want people to remember that it's not, Trump is a babbling idiot who just says crazy shit all the time, but is just a greedy pig at the end of the day. But these goons around him are absolutely maniacal and will pull any policy lever they can if given the opportunity to consolidate power around themselves. I don't think that's an overstatement at all. Speaking about hypocrisy, so on Wednesday this week, the Pentagon announced that they are now re-requiring the flu vaccine back at their bases. They had a few months ago said, oh, we're not going to do the flu vaccine mandate, your body, your choice, blah, 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 part of the RFK anti-vax rhetoric that came out. Well, they all got wicked sick from the flu, and they've changed their mind. They now said, wait, but I thought these vaccines don't work, and they're just microchips. So weird that they would do that as a response to them all getting sick with the flu. I don't know.
Right. And also, obviously, the whole thing's ridiculous because, like, you famously have to get a bunch of vaccines when you go into the military.
Yeah, it's
especially
so dumb.
If you're going overseas or whatever. It's like the most ripe ground for infections to spread because you have like hundreds of
in barracks.
Right, hundreds of guys living in barracks being sleep deprived. Like, it's the worst case scenario.
It's just such a joke. And they all get sick. One kid died, a recruit died of the flu. And it's just so irresponsible. If you're the family of that person who died, like, furious.
Yeah.
Get the goddamn flu vaccine. Get your vaccines. Like, don't get sick out of principle. It doesn't make sense.
Somebody needs to write a book about how much time this second Trump administration is taking to reverse things they did earlier.
Yep. It's
it's
crazy.
Everything. It's everything with Musk's cuts. So many of them have to reverse with the USAID. Obviously, Iran, they're now, giving all this sanction relief they never had to give in the first place. Like, so much of this term is just about trying to repair the damage they did literally 3 months before.
When they massacred all of the federal employees and realized, wait a minute, they actually have a job for a reason. This is so stupid. Yeah, they're the dumbest. It's the worst. It's crazy because it's so far, in a way, the worst presidency of all time. Like,
yeah.
And it's funny because that very bipartisan centrist group of historians who put out that report every couple of years already had Trump 1 as the worst. Under James Buchanan, the guy who let the Civil War happen. So, so this was interesting, speaking about Mamdani kind of making the model. He's kind of played a little bit of kingmaker against Jeffries in these New York City primaries. So there were 3 races this week at the New York level. And all of Mamdani's endorsements won, and all of Jeffries' endorsements lost, basically. And obviously, Hakeem Jeffries is the Bronx representative for the federal government, and obviously the minority leader. So Brad Lander beat Dan Goldman. Darializa Avila Chevalier beat Adriano Espaillat. Sorry, guys. And Claire Valdez beat Velasquez's. So, yep, all 3 Democratic Socialist groups winning and 2 incumbents defeated, which is a pretty big deal. Again, I mean, you could argue, oh, that only works in New York City or it doesn't, but I think it does continually show that, at least in New York, Mamdani is the kingmaker. And in fact, this country has never been more open to progressive candidates in general.
For sure. Yeah, I think my three big takeaways were obviously Mamdani is so popular right now and has a huge influence when he wants to use it. Two, Israel is so unpopular right now that so many of these Democratic primaries, the more openly anti-Israel candidate wins.
Yeah.
And then the third would be like the socialism piece, which like I think maybe people might read too much into that label and like, the Democratic Socialists of America being involved and all that stuff. Like the more central takeaway is like tax the rich is popular. So I would say like Mamdani popular, tax the rich popular, Israel unpopular. And like those are some things that I think will have effects outside of New York.
For sure. And in fact, you would think that potentially being critical on Israel would be hard to get popular in New York, given, it's historically been a, heavy Jewish center and stuff like that. But it just shows you that not even in New York City that isn't true. People that Mamdani would get hurt by that.
Yeah, 100%. And the Lander race, I believe, was two Jewish candidates against each other, where one was more pro-Israel than the other.
Yes. So it's interesting. I mean, it's not looking like that's going to go away either. I mean, we were talking about it off the top of earlier in the show, but it's always a bummer when like being anti something is a big part of the platform in general, just because it's not really a solutions-based response to just be like, I hate that. Yeah, but what can you do given what's going on, right? It's just there's no way around it. Speaking of kind of sad news, so Pete Buttigieg posted a Substack this week called "Among the Darkest Hours of My Life." It's in the Substack. He revealed that his 4-year-old twins were separated from him for a day after a false Child Protective Services report. This happened in June. Rick, do you want to kind of expand on this? Because it's pretty depressing. And you are the speaker of darkness, I guess. I don't know why I'm handing up to you the sad story.
I do watch a lot of action movies. No, like the background would be, so there's this term on the internet, swatting, which is what this is, right? Swatting as in SWAT team. And it came out of like the video game and Twitch stream communities. And it's exactly what this anonymous person did to Pete Buttigieg, which is call law enforcement anonymously and accuse a person of a very serious violent crime. Tell them where the person lives and say the evidence is in the house. Basically convincing law enforcement they have to send a SWAT team to somebody's house to rip it apart. So, like, this has happened to streamers before, like, while they're live on streaming. Like, they get a knock at the door and the SWAT team just comes in and, is looking for a kidnapped child that has never been there and there's no connection.
Whoa.
But this is obviously, like, the first I can remember of this high up of a political figure doing this, and it being anonymous, right? Like it's not like Trump sending people to investigate his political opponents of a crime. Like, as far as I know, the person is still anonymous who made this accusation. The accusation seems even weak to me. So they allegedly called Child Protective Services anonymously and said they spoke to somebody who is close with Pete, who Pete admitted to them he's committed unthinkable violent crimes and that his children are not safe in his house. What? So that's what this anonymous call to CPS and the FBI was. So Pete was basically detained for 24 hours. His children were taken to his grandparents, but he didn't know what was going on. He didn't know what was happening with his children while this was happening. And, within 24 hours, Michigan State Police and CPS determined it was a false report. So Buttigieg obviously said, filing a false report is a crime. If there's any way to press civil or criminal charges over this, we're going to pursue it. But my takeaway is, there needs to be harsher penalties for accusing somebody of something like this, right? Like
Totally.
Filing a false police report, that's a crime that, like, if you have a good lawyer, you'll plea like 20 hours of community service, right? Like, you're not going to federal prison for 10 years over this. Whereas the accusation is something that Pete could have gone to prison for life for. So that was kind of my takeaway. It's like another instance of the kind of like right-wing edgelord video game world seeping into U.S. politics at the highest level. So yeah, the whole thing, scary story, super depressing. Obviously, I hope it doesn't like continue, but the one way it could have less of a chance of continuing is if there was like a better laws to make this, you know, punishable by 10 years in prison or something like that.
Yeah, it's a great point, and you're so right. There's been so many instances now of gamer lingo, I guess, like bleeding into politics, specifically political drama. I mean, I believe the guy who shot Charlie Kirk had written a bunch of like gamer crap on the bullets, right? Like, or like referencing to gamer stuff and, you know, 4chan, Reddit type, not Reddit, but like 4chan kind of online board styled nonsense. And yeah, it's weird, right? Like, it's weird. It's just, there's just a real weird creepiness going on in the streaming / message board community that is getting more entitled and more emboldened, I guess, over time, which is hopefully not going to continue, but it seems like it's starting to become a real thing.
For sure. Yeah. I feel like maybe
it's weird.
I feel like maybe Tucker Carlson's audience has a lot of overlap with 4chan users. That might just be a guess.
Totally. I mean, but you could also maybe argue Hassan too, because he's on Twitch.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love gaming. I love Nintendo. I'm a Nintendo gamer, but I'm a big video game guy. And you know, I used to, you know, not all these guys I'd say are A-class human beings, but they are good at games. So I don't know. I'm generally pro gamer as one myself, but it's getting rough when you keep hearing these stories. It's just awful. Speaking of weird drama, so I don't want to talk too much about this because I think it's been talked about a lot, is this fucking reflecting pool and the drama. Obviously, it's supposed to cost a couple million. Now it's costing $15 million. There is a no bid contract. You can't get the pool right. Trump's patrolling around the pool. He's obsessed with the pool. He cares more about the pool than anything. But I have a different question for you, other than obviously he fumbled this fucking pool. And part of me loves just watching the internet own Trump. And you know, like you've said this before, and I think about it all the time, where this is the shit that drives Trump nuts, is when his ballroom messes up, his pool fucks up, he can't get the thing painted the color he wanted. He could care less about inflation. He just cares about his, you know, statues and gold painted nonsense. So I love it. I do like that. I will say, I do feel like national discourse over the reflecting pool for 2 weeks is such a sign of how dumb we've become as a nation. Because it happened at the same time the U.S. conceded to losing a war with Iran and spending $400 billion on the Iran war. And look, I get it. He fumbled the pool, and it's like, you could argue, like, he can't even do the pool. How can he do anything? I get that. But like, it does scream a little bit to me of a smokescreen, a little bit. Another just Trump drama story to distract people from the fact that this guy has crushed the U.S. economy and crushed our international presence in every shape or form. And I just feel so dumb every time I see something about this reflecting pool. I don't know about you, but what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. Like, making fun of Trump for caring so much about this pool, which, by the way, likely just had a cheap liner installed during the recent renovations and had some algae build up. Like, that's the whole story.
Yeah.
Like, there's not right. Trump is making all these accusations.
Obama did something.
Yeah. Of course. It's the central national landmark of the United States. There's cameras everywhere. Trump has zero evidence of anybody vandalizing it on camera.
The National Guard is there now.
Right. Trump would have put out that security video on the first day this all started, if he had any evidence of it, right? It's cheaply made products. But I think your point's important where it's like even criticizing or mocking Trump for lying and caring this much about a discolored pool is playing into Trump's goal, which is to make the biggest news story of the day this pool.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah, like he would prefer getting made fun of for the pool, but it's the number one story than the war in Iran to be the number one story.
Of course, because it's a way bigger humiliation. Or Epstein, frankly, or whatever. Yeah, or the gas prices being $5 a gallon or whatever. Whatever. Pick your poison.
Yeah, totally. And you heard there was this cyclist that's a former Olympian that got arrested for touching the water.
No, I didn't hear that.
He was literally riding his bike. 67-year-old was riding his bike by, like, unaware of this story. This was like when it first broke. Like, this was like 2 days into the first thing a few weeks ago. And he was just like looking in and saw like the liner hanging off and just like put his hand in for literally 2 seconds. And he was arrested without his Miranda rights read. On the spot.
It is crazy. That being said, all the things we just said, it is crazy that more people have been arrested at the reflecting pool than January 6th now.
Of course.
Like, it's hard to rationalize that.
How many pages of Epstein files have been released? Hundreds of thousands, right? And nobody has been arrested for anything involving it.
Yeah, a reflecting pool. It makes me feel dumb, I guess. That's how I feel. When I see that news story, I talk about it, I feel our country becoming dumber. Right. Like, that's how I feel. I feel like, man, we've gotten so dumb that this is like what we're doing. Like, we're talking about a pool. Like, this is what we got.
The pool in the ballroom and even UFC White House being as big of stories as they are, as Trump rips up the Constitution and invades whoever, like, is a disaster, you know?
Totally.
Like,
I mean, the pool is bigger than ice right now.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
And, you know, he somehow can manage. It's just his gift truly is having no shame and just tweeting out crazy shit. Here's a picture of the Obamas as apes, then fails on the tariffs. Or like Epstein file doesn't go his way, so he posts a picture of him as Jesus Christ. Like, his willingness to use Twitter and Truth Social and care about vanity projects is just the ultimate smokescreen. I actually think that. I don't think a lot of people say, oh, Trump is playing all this chess and he's actually this. I think he's an idiot. I think he's a babbling idiot. But I do think his ability to throw people off his scent is pretty good.
Totally.
Yeah, that is a skill of his.
Yeah, and like, turn the attention to where he wants it, regardless of the type of the attention.
Because he doesn't care if it's also humiliating, as long as it's not as humiliating as the other thing.
Right.
And another thing that was overshadowed this week was more and more reports of Trump's health. Specifically, this finding that Eli Lilly, one of the many big pharma companies in this country, had granted a compassionate use case for a 79-year-old patient living in the White House. Now, many of us will know now that Trump just turned 80 on Flag Day, so he was a 79-year-old man. Now, there, I guess, could be, in theory, more 79-year-old men. You know, D.C. is filled to the brim with geriatric men making important decisions, so that is important to say. But before we dive in, I figured we could turn to our favorite congressman out of California, Mr. Ted Lieu, very elegantly explain what's going on, because, man, does this guy have a way with words.
Let's hear it.
He's becoming, like we were talking about before the show, one of our true favorites. But here we go. Take it away, Ted.
Thank you, Chairman Aguilar. Inflation is up. Grocery prices are up. Utility costs are up. Housing prices are up. We have a bipartisan housing bill that both the Congress and Senate passed. There was supposed to be a big signing ceremony today in the Capitol, and then all of a sudden, Donald Trump decides he's not coming to sign the bill. Well, why is that? Did he wake up on the wrong side of the bed? Is he unable to stay awake today? What's causing him to chicken out again? Is it Taco Wednesday? Or is it side effects from a drug? We don't know. This erratic behavior of the president is very concerning. He has trouble staying awake at multiple White House events and cabinet meetings. He has clearly some weakness in one of his arms. He's got swelling in his hands. And the White House needs to come clean. What we know is there's a report saying that one person in America got this special new drug. It was a 79-year-old person who was very high profile, and this drug can only be given to someone under the compassionate use provision, meaning you do that if someone basically has a terminal illness. So we need to know, did Donald Trump get this special drug from Eli Lilly? And did he get it under that provision? And if he did, why is that the case?
What a takedown. And we'll talk more about the housing bill. That will be our next topic. But thoughts?
It sounds like the drug was meant for Trump, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the background is, I bet some listeners have heard of this drug, retatrutide. It's like the next...
I'm not familiar.
So Ozempic is semaglutide.
Oh, okay.
And that's called a GLP-1 agonist. This retatrutide is considered a triple agonist, and basically it's very similar to Ozempic, but much stronger. So, like, the early results from the trials on weight loss have been like almost double the amount of weight loss than Ozempic.
Mm.
And Ozempic itself is like unprecedented, obviously. It's funny. I actually first heard about this drug just because following like random fitness influencers on Instagram, sometimes you'll see them discuss it, or you'll see in the comments people going, "Get on Reta." That guy should get on Reta is like a new thing people say. But it's still an investigational drug, which means like it's not approved yet. It's still in FDA trials, which is why they needed this compassionate use, also known as early access. That's why they needed this authorization, because it's not FDA approved yet. So I'm just curious, has Trump tried Ozempic or the FDA approved drugs and we just don't know about it and they did not work? And that's why he's trying this new, much stronger version? I think that's like an interesting question. Also, of course, you know, similar thing, like all these people that are vaccine skeptics are like signing up to get this drug that's not even FDA approved yet. And people don't understand the side effects. So I think it's kind of funny. I mean, if the report that it's a well-connected 79-year-old man with obesity living in the White House, like if that's accurate, how many people can it be?
Well, it makes you wonder, how fat is he? If this
Right.
is post, has he been taking it already? Like, is this what he looks like after the fact? And
Right.
how concerning would it be if he came out with Ozempic face? Or
Yeah,
imagine one day
exactly.
Trump just comes out and he looks like freaking Ariana Grande. It
Right.
would look insane. And he's a bigger dude. Like, he's tall, Trump. Like, he's all obviously fat now and overweight, but more like just generally, he's a large guy. Like, he's a big guy. So he would look crazy if he got really
For sure.
fat.
I mean, he's 82, and when 80-year-olds lose weight rapidly, it has a drastic effect on their appearance.
And yeah, I think the point about compassionate use is important because obviously Ted Lieu is right. Typically, the use of compassionate use is like, this person's dying, let him use an experimental drug because who gives a crap? You know, that's usually the conditions that a compassionate use authorization is granted. It is interesting to note that that was the thing that allowed the COVID vaccine to be distributed before it was approved. People may forget that different vaccines were granted compassionate use. And that is the number one criticism from RFK about it. Well, it was never actually approved. It was a compassionate use case.
Of course.
So it is very funny, to your point, how quickly, when it comes to losing weight, people will not they don't give a fuck. They will just throw anything at themselves other than eat healthy.
Right.
If he's so worried about obesity, why isn't he drinking raw milk with RFK and working out in his jeans with Kid Rock?
Right. Right. And like specifically, like the reports I've read online of Americans that are getting access to this drug right now have all tried the first generation,
yes,
the Wegovy, Ozempics, and had no success, or they have some specific other medical issue where the side effects are too much, but they think the retatrutide might be better. So, like, I'm definitely wondering if Trump has been on Ozempic or Wegovy for the past year or two.
Almost surely, right? Like,
right.
Yeah. That's what I think. I think this is what he looks like on Wegovy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he keeps seeing specialists, right? Hasn't he seen like 20 specialists over the year, like random? And he says it's just to prove the haters wrong. I don't know. I've never gone to the doctor to prove the haters wrong. But it just seems, I don't know.
Yeah. Hilarious story, though.
It is interesting. And I love Ted Lieu. And so let's talk about the first part of what he was saying. So, yes. So there was a huge bill passed this week on Wednesday. As Ted Lieu, it became Taco Wednesday, according to Ted Lieu, which he just delivers with such a straight face and so unenthused. It's just Taco Wednesday, I suppose. Anyways, he just cracks me up, man. And it was this housing act, and it was a bipartisan act. It was probably the biggest piece of bipartisan legislation in a very, very long time. I can't think of one that has been passed specifically the reason why it's gotten passed is because it actually would be very helpful, and I think everyone wants to run on it for the midterms because it's such a good piece of legislation and it would be such good political fodder for your campaign. So both Republicans and Democrats were highly motivated to sign it, whereas if this was probably introduced in 2025, they would have not signed it. That's almost certainly why, in my opinion. So the bill is called the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, and it's a affordability bill. So what it does is it basically increases low-income housing tax credits. It gives $5 billion of subsidies for first-time home buyer assistance, and it expands the FHA loan limits for different bills. Trump has decided to not sign it because he said he won't sign anything until the Save America Act, the thing that makes you bring a passport to re-register to vote, or a birth certificate. So he's actually sabotaged his own party's probably biggest legislation success out of this unbelievably petty need and paranoia about the midterms coming up.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, it wasn't just bipartisan. It was like almost unanimous, right? The Senate was like 85-5 and the House was 358-32. Because obviously, Republicans will claim something's bipartisan if they're able to convince only John Fetterman to vote for it.
Yeah.
But like this
Exactly.
was actually bipartisan. Yeah, Trump is throwing a temper tantrum over it. He downplayed what the bill could even do, saying it's basically a minor importance compared to lower interest rates, which we need now. So kind of the theory that a lot of people are pushing forward is that Trump's frustration is he's being told how bad the midterms look for Republicans on a daily basis. Obviously, he loves poll numbers.
Of course.
And the theory is that, like, signing a bill like this, which wouldn't have noticeable effects for a few years, is not exciting him.
Oh, no.
What he wants is lower interest rates so people could effectively get cheaper mortgages from now through November. And he's not even like thinking about something that could help people after November, which obviously is just so mean and dumb
and diabolical. And stupid. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And stupid. But does that theory kind of make sense to you?
Yeah, he's also an idiot because even if they cut interest rates, mortgage rates don't happen immediately. Like it's not a one and the same. And he's so stupid to think that anyone would take the bait at one interest rate cut anyways, because the Fed Reserve does it in like monthly meetings and quarterly meetings. It's ridiculous to think that would even be enough to change anything in the way that he wants. But yeah, he's an idiot. I mean, and I think the more, to your point, like the most important observation here is how paranoid the Republicans have become in how they think the midterms are going to go, right? They think they're going to lose bad, and how slimy they are in terms of what they will do to try to win, whether it's withhold important legislation for housing subsidies, whether it's gerrymander 20 seats in a year out of nowhere, effectively. And I don't think they'll stop there, Like, I think if they lose, they will pretend that it's fake. I don't think so. What the difference is, when Trump pretended that the election was stolen versus Biden, enough conservatives were like, shut up, dude. Give me a break. This party, this group of people are so pathetic that I actually think they will just say whatever Trump says. When Trump inevitably says these races are stolen, which he will, for sure, what do we do if Mike Johnson says, I think he's right? Because I think Mike Johnson will say that. Now, I'm starting to get more and more convinced he will, because they really aren't showing any level of spine, I guess. And I guess it's more like, that's what I think about. Like, this is so scary, how scared he is and how paranoid he is and how willing he is to manipulate policy and legislation and whatever to try to give himself a win in November.
Totally. And once again, the only Republicans speaking out about it are the ones that are retiring or lost primaries, and that won't have a job in 6 months. John Cornyn in Texas said about Trump not passing the House bill, it's sort of inexplicable to me. I don't know if there's a precedent for it. Tom Tillis from North Carolina said, I don't know why you're holding a bill that's ready for signature hostage over a bill that will never pass in this Congress, right?
Yeah.
So compare those quotes, and to even say they have a spine, I'm not even willing to say that because they only gained a spine after losing. But compare that to MAGA loyalist John Kennedy from Louisiana, who, talking about Trump's SAVE Act, said, quote, I will stand on one leg and bark like a dog if that's what it takes to pass it.
He is such a joke. He thinks that all he has today is these cutesy Southern phrases and he can get away with whatever he wants. He'll say he'll like rattle like a rattlesnake hungry for his third dinner. And then that's what I think of Trump. And you're like, dude, what?
Yeah, he's the Theo Vaughn of the Senate.
Yeah, exactly. I can't stand him. Well, and the last bit of news is that, and maybe people don't know about this, the House Freedom Caucus. So people probably have heard of these caucuses in groups. There's always these little clubs within the Congress, and they do their little fits. They throw their little temper tantrums. And the House Freedom Caucus, which is led by Anna Paulina Luna, a conservative from Florida, they've announced that they would block all floor votes until the Senate has passed the SAVE Act. And so these caucus members have said they refuse to vote for any legislation at all until this is passed. So the House is effectively frozen right now. And yeah, Luna said, we're not voting for anything until the Senate stops blocking the SAVE Act, period. And like you said, the SAVE Act has basically zero chance to pass the Senate. It is a terrible piece of legislation. And so, yeah. This is a disaster.
They would have to kill the filibuster permanently to pass it, which they're debating doing. But so far, they have not committed to doing.
It's so bad, though, because if they do that, if they kill the filibuster, they're writing their own grave. So, like it's over for them. Like,
yeah.
And it's funny, though, because they have been okay with that when it meant sacrificing some of their incumbents in Democratic states with the redistricting wars, because they usually aren't okay with that so bad, but they were in this case. So they will throw their own party under the bus, but I think they're just terrified enough to get rid.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think we are seeing Republicans as a whole start to panic in a way that we haven't seen in a long time.
Yes.
Like since 2008. I think they're really, the reality that Donald Trump is not going to be president forever, I feel like has just started to seep into their minds. And
it's unbelievable that took them this long.
10 years, literally 10 years.
Literally.
But you're seeing it. Like, you're seeing it in the ads that they're running for the midterm elections against Democrats, and you're seeing it like calling Tallarico a trans communist, like when he's the most boring centrist Texas guy ever. Like, they are getting desperate because, well, one, the opposition party always does well in the midterms, but here it's like just a storm of unpopular things that Trump has made his party commit to that they have to defend in swing states now. So I do think that the panic's setting in.
Yeah, I think they are. The Democrats are really can't get out of their own way, the corporate Democratic kind of coalition, but the Republican Party is, like, the politicians themselves is the most short-sighted, like inability to even think further than like a couple months out group I've ever seen in my life. Like, how they weren't able to realize that this is, like, we're not actually going to create a monarchy here. And, like, this is going to cause major problems because, and it makes you wonder, like, I can't wrap my head around, do they really think that their policies are good ideas? Like, what do they think? Like, if the country falls apart and everyone's miserable, do they think that people are still going to love them?
Right. I mean, they certainly didn't love them in 2007 and 2008 when Bush's approval cratered, right?
I know. It just shows you, though, how bad of a party they are, in the sense that their whole anti-government shtick, which people really resonate with because everyone hates the government, right, is only works when they're not in power.
Totally.
Like, they only can be the opposition. They're not able to be government because they don't like government. So
100%.
So, like,
and you
it's
see that
flawed.
with the media too. Like, Fox News reach its peaks popularity when there's an unpopular Democratic president.
Exactly.
They, like, these people's whole worldviews are based on what they oppose, right?
Exactly.
Not what they support. Yeah.
So when that happens, you can't actually be in charge. And that's why they keep having to blame Biden and Obama and dig up excuses, because they actually don't have a platform for governance. They don't actually know how to govern. The Democrats have a platform for governance. It's just not good. But they're trying to come up with ideas. They're just not good at it, really. But it's infinitely better than a non-party. No, I think it's why I'm bringing it up now is that, like, I can't see a world where this cycle ever breaks post-Reagan, right? Where, like, since Republicans do everything to make the government bad, of course, every time they're in office, the government gets worse. So how does that fix? Like, how do you, like, because I know a lot of our listeners genuinely believe in small government. I know a lot of our listeners genuinely believe that the federal government should have no business in making economic decisions and stuff like that, and blah, 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 blah. But how do you rationalize that with the destruction that comes when you destroy the government, when you are the government, right? Like, how long of a runway do you actually need? Can it actually ever work, right? Is the Republican Party just doomed to live in this psychosis, basically, for the rest of our lives?
I think right now it's just a cult of personality, and you really can't. The views of the Republican Party are the views of what Trump woke up today and decided his views are.
Yeah.
Right? I think, like, they have to. It's just like the Democrats now realizing this, like, swing voters like the opposition party, right? They like, it's so easy to be the opposition party because you can just criticize and criticize and criticize. Like, even though the Tea Party was all about small government, at least you could say they wanted to pass bills to lower taxes more.
Yeah.
Like, at least they had something. Whereas I feel like the modern day Republican Party, like, they really don't have anything because it's so dependent on what Trump's feelings of that day. And if they say the wrong thing, they'll be effectively kicked out of the party.
In fact, they finally got a bill passed and they can't even get it signed. They're such an ineffective legislative body. Like, that, I think that's what I'm trying to, like, they can't even pass a law. Like, they're so bad. And I think it is we give the Democrats a hard time because you want better from the people you align with, right? But like, I do think sometimes it's worth remembering how horrible the Republican Party is just at doing anything. Like, they are so far below, like, in terms of capabilities. They get evangelized a lot as like being smarter than they are, I think, way too often. Like, they are really dumb. But anyway, I wanted to end. So last week I was joking around that for Pride Month, I wanted to make a compilation of Trump saying gay stuff, basically, because he just can't help himself from just complimenting men and specifically their appearance. And so I was looking online before I made it to see if there was anything. And there were so many. This idea has been thought of, but just not like in this context. And there were like hour-long compilations. Like, I saw one that was like an hour of just him just 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5. And I was just like, this is too much. And I'm not going to like go through this. But there was one 1-minute one that was from the smaller channel called just with the name Steven that I wanted. It was a good minute long and it really captured it. So I thought we could just enjoy Trump acting the way he does on camera for a minute because it really is a treat. It will be better for the people watching the YouTube rather than the audio because you'll just hear him making kind of gagging sounds for a second. But so, yeah, if there's ever been a moment to switch to YouTube, it's now. But anyways, are you ready for this?
Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. Blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man. When I say that, all due respect to women, and
there
I
it
love
is.
women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough. And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God. That's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him.
I just thought that was a great comp. There are longer ones, there are better ones, but that one I think catches the gets the point.
It's unbelievable. I knew the Arnold Palmer one was coming.
That one's my favorite. But so while I was looking this up, this is really what I wanted to talk about, is that I was Googling like Trump. So I just typed in originally, Trump says gay things. I'm just being honest. And in the Google searches, I found that Don Lemon put out a piece this week that says, is Trump the first gay president? Where he goes through all of these comments and goes, gay, gay, gay. And I have mixed feelings about Don Lemon as a journalist. But it is funny to think that the Lonely Liberal podcast and Don Lemon are covering the same topics.
Yeah, we're at the same level of analysis.
Yeah, exactly. You'd hope a little bit more from Donny Boy, but anyway.
Yeah, and I mentioned in the last episode, like at the last UFC event Trump was at, I think it was the one before the White House, talking to a fighter, Paulo Costa, who just won, trying to convince him to quit fighting because of how good looking he was.
Yeah, he can't help himself.
Saying, you can't keep fighting. You're way too good looking. Please quit. Like, why? What?
We got a bunch sent in to the Instagram this week of people saying more ammo that they had everyone has their personal favorites, so please send in your favorites. We can make it at least we have one more. I think this might be our last June one, but we can carry the torch into the summer of Trump's love for the LGBTQ plus community. But anyways, because there's a lot. So media@thelonelyliberal.com. People kept sending it or at the Instagram at the Lonely Liberal. Anyways, that's it from me. Rick, you got anything?
No, I think that's it.
All right, man. What a week, huh?
Another week in paradise.
Another week. Exactly. I am thriving. I am living. This is it. All right, dude. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks. See ya.
See ya.